Have you ever been in one of those moments where life felt overwhelming, like the world was closing in on you, and everything around you seemed dark? You didn't know how you were going to get through, and you felt like you were wandering around blind. Maybe that sounds a bit dramatic, but we've all been there, and I don't mean just metaphorically. I mean those real-life, tough moments. A season of loss, heartbreak, or confusion. A time when you couldn't see a way forward. Maybe you're in one of those moments right now, but let me take you back to something really important. When we're in the darkest times of our lives, there's often someone who shows up. Maybe you didn't expect it. Maybe they didn't even know how much they were helping, but they came and they brought with them a lamp, a light to guide you through. They stood by you, offered you a hand, or even just listened to you. And here's the thing. We should never forget those people. Never forget those who came with a lamp when you were in the dark. Today, I want us to dive deep into this idea. It's so important to recognize, honor, and be grateful for the people who shine their light in our lives, especially during our darkest moments. I want to talk about what the Bible says about this, how we can reflect on those people, and also bring in some wisdom from C.S. Lewis, who had a lot to say about friendship and love. Let's start by talking about light. It's one of the most common metaphors we hear in the Bible and in everyday life. Light represents hope, goodness, clarity, everything we yearn for when things are going wrong. And one of my favorite verses is from the Gospel of John, where it says, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." John 1:5, NIV. Isn't that such a beautiful reminder? This verse tells us that light, no matter how small, is always stronger than darkness. But here's the thing. When we're in a dark place, sometimes we can't create that light on our own. That's where other people come in. They carry the light for us when we can't do it ourselves. Whether it's a friend, a family member, or even a stranger, they become the embodiment of that verse. They bring the light into our darkness. Take a moment to think about the people who have done that for you. Maybe it's that friend who called you every day during a tough season. Maybe it's the mentor who guided you through a difficult decision, or that family member who just sat with you in silence because they knew words wouldn't help at the time. Their presence was the light you needed, even if they didn't realize how important they were at the time. Lewis, in his book The Four Loves, talks about friendship in such a profound way. He says, "Friendship is born at that moment when one person says to another, 'What? You too? I thought I was the only one.' There's something so healing about being understood. When someone sees your pain and says, 'I've been there,' it's like they're holding up a lamp and saying, 'Let me help you find the way out.' Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. You see, the Bible has a lot to say about relationships, especially the ones that carry us through tough times. One of my favorite verses about friendship is Proverbs 17:17, which says, 'A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a time of adversity.' NIV. Let that sink in for a moment. Friends are great, but there are certain people who come into your life specifically for those dark seasons. They are the ones born for adversity, for the tough moments. They are your brothers and sisters in spirit. But here's the thing. We often move past those moments too quickly. Once we're out of the darkness, once life seems to be on track again, it's easy to forget the people who stood by us. I think that's human nature. We're so relieved to be out of the storm that we forget to look back and say, "Thank you for being my shelter." The Bible doesn't just call us to lean on others during hard times. It calls us to be grateful for them, to acknowledge the gift they were to us. In 1 Thessalonians 5:18 it says, "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." NIV. Did you catch that? In all circumstances, not just the good ones, but even the difficult, painful moments. Because in those times, God is working through the people around us, and we need to thank Him for those people. We need to thank them too. And let's be real here for a second. It's not always easy to be grateful when we're hurting. When you're in a dark place, it's hard to see the good. But that's the beauty of light. It shows you the good that's been there all along. The people who come into your life with their lamps are part of that good. Lewis had this incredible ability to describe human relationships in a way that makes you stop and think. He often connected the idea of friendship to something much bigger, something eternal. In The Weight of Glory, he writes, "There are no ordinary people. You have never talked to a mere mortal. Think about that for a second. The people who bring light into your life, they aren't just friends or companions. They are eternal beings just like you, created by God and loved by Him. And when they step into your darkness, they are reflecting God's own light. Lewis also talks about the idea of friendship being based on something deeper than just shared experiences. In The Four Loves, he says, "Friendship is born when we find others who care about the same truth. Often, the people who help us the most in our darkest times are those who share the same truths we do. They understand what we're going through, not just on a surface level, but on a soul level. They share the truth of God's love, and they use that truth to help guide us back to the light." Now that we've explored the beauty of friendship and the gift of light, let's talk about what we can do in response. When someone shows up in your life with that lamp, how do you show your gratitude? It's easy to feel thankful in the moment, but actually expressing that gratitude can take a little more effort. Gratitude is one of those things that doesn't come naturally to all of us. Sometimes we assume the people who help us know how much we appreciate them, and we don't always take the time to tell them. But the Bible is pretty clear on the importance of being grateful and honoring those who have been there for us. In Colossians 3:15, we read, "Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body, you are called to peace. And be thankful." NIV. And be thankful. It's not just a suggestion, it's something we're called to do. And it's not just about saying thank you once and moving on. Gratitude, real gratitude, means living in a way that honors the people who helped us. So, what does that look like? Well, it can start with something as simple as a conversation. Have you ever sat down with someone who helped you through a tough time and told them what their support meant to you? Not just in passing, but really telling them, "Hey, you were a light for me when I couldn't see a way forward." It's a powerful moment when you recognize and affirm someone's role in your life. It's also a way of strengthening that bond. Lewis said, "Affection is responsible for 9/10 of whatever solid and durable happiness there is in our lives." Affection, showing appreciation, love, and gratitude, is essential for the relationships that bring us the most joy. When we take time to practice gratitude, it deepens our connections and brings more joy into both our lives and the lives of those who helped us. And here's the thing, showing gratitude doesn't always have to be a big, grand gesture. Sometimes it's the little things that matter most. A handwritten note, a phone call, or even just making time to be with that person, letting them know that their presence in your life is valued. Gratitude can be simple, but it's powerful. In 1 Thessalonians 5:11, we're reminded, "Therefore encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing." NIV. Part of being thankful is also being an encourager. When someone has been a light for you, turn around and be an encourager for them. Build them up, not just in words, but through your actions. Here's something else that's really important. Just as people have come into our lives with light, we are called to be that light for others. Think about it. How many times have you been on the receiving end of someone's kindness or support? Now, imagine if you were able to pass that light forward to someone else. The Bible calls us to be light in this world, and it's not just a nice idea, it's a responsibility. In Matthew 5:14-16, Jesus says something that's always stuck with me. He says, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." NIV. You see, it's not just about recognizing those who've brought light into our lives. It's about becoming a light for others. It's about stepping into those moments when someone else is in the dark and offering them your lamp. And here's the beautiful thing. You don't have to have it all figured out to be a light for someone else. Sometimes just being there, just showing up, is enough. There's this story in the Bible that always makes me think about this. It's in the book of Ruth. You probably know the story. Ruth loses her husband, and she's in this incredibly dark place. She has every reason to go back to her old life, but instead, she chooses to stay with her mother-in-law, Naomi, who's also lost everything. And what does Ruth say? She says, "Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God." Ruth 1:16, NIV. Ruth was a light for Naomi. She didn't have to be. No one would have blamed her if she had left. But she chose to stay. She chose to be present, to bring light into Naomi's darkness. We can all do that for the people around us. Whether it's a friend, a co-worker, or even a stranger, we have the power to bring light into their lives. And when we do, we reflect God's love in a way that speaks louder than words. Lewis wrote in Mere Christianity, "Don't waste time bothering whether you love your neighbor. Act as if you did." As soon as we do this, we find one of the great secrets. When you are behaving as if you loved someone, you will presently come to love him. In other words, being a light for others doesn't always start with a feeling. It starts with an action. And over time, that action can lead to something even deeper. Let's get practical here. How can we be light for others in our everyday lives? How can we take what we've learned and apply it in a way that makes a real difference? First, it starts with awareness. So many of us are going through life distracted by our own challenges and worries. We're focused on our to-do lists, our plans, and our personal goals, and we can forget to look around and see who's struggling. Becoming a lamp bearer means being aware of the people in your life who may be in the dark. It means taking the time to really see them, to notice when something's not right. Maybe it's a co-worker who's been quiet lately, or a friend who seems distant. Maybe it's a family member who's going through a tough time, but they haven't said anything. Being aware of others' needs is the first step in being a light for them. Next, be intentional. Once you've noticed someone who might need a little light, be intentional about reaching out. It doesn't have to be anything big. A simple text message or phone call can make all the difference. Sometimes just letting someone know you're thinking of them is enough to lift their spirits. Another thing to keep in mind is consistency. Being a light isn't always a one-time thing. Sometimes people are in dark seasons for longer than we expect. Don't be afraid to keep showing up, even when it feels like your efforts aren't making a huge impact. You never know how much your consistent presence might mean to someone. Finally, ask God for guidance. Pray for the wisdom to know how and when to be a light for others. Ask God to show you the people who need your support, and trust that He will give you the strength to carry that lamp, even when it feels heavy. When we talk about being a light for others, it's hard not to think about the concept of servant leadership. It's the idea that leadership isn't about being in charge or getting recognition. It's about serving others, lifting them up, and helping them shine. This idea is modeled perfectly in Jesus, who demonstrated what it means to lead by serving. In Matthew 20:28, Jesus says, "The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." Jesus had every right to demand attention, to be served and honored, yet he chose to humble himself and serve others, even to the point of sacrificing his life for us. Think about how countercultural that is. In our world today, leadership often looks like power, status, and success. But Jesus flipped that idea on its head. True leadership, he showed us, is found in humility and service. It's found in being willing to wash the feet of others, just as he did with his disciples in John 13. Now you might be thinking, that's great for Jesus, but what does that look like in my life? Being a servant leader can start in small, everyday moments. It might mean taking the time to listen when someone needs to talk, offering your skills to help a friend in need, or simply being present when someone feels alone. These acts of service, though they may seem small, reflect the heart of Christ. Lewis once wrote, "Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less." It's a powerful reminder that being a light for others often means stepping out of the spotlight ourselves. It's about focusing on the needs of others, not because we expect something in return, but because it's how we live out God's love. So how can we cultivate this servant-hearted mindset? One way is to start each day with a prayer, asking God to show you opportunities to serve. It could be something as simple as helping a neighbor with groceries, or it could be more involved, like mentoring someone who's struggling. Whatever it is, know that when you serve others, you are being a reflection of Christ's light in this world. Have you ever thought about the ripple effect of kindness? When someone brings light into your life, that light doesn't stop with you. It has the potential to spread. Just like dropping a pebble in a pond creates ripples that spread out far beyond the initial splash, the impact of one person's kindness can reach others in ways we might never see. Think about the times when someone has helped you. Did it inspire you to help someone else? Maybe when you were in a dark place and someone showed up with their lamp, it gave you the strength to turn around and offer light to someone else. That's the beauty of this ripple effect. It keeps going long after the initial act of kindness. Galatians 6:9-10 encourages us with this. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers. Even when it feels like your efforts aren't making a big difference, God promises that the good we do will bear fruit in due time. And remember, you may not always see the impact of the light you bring into someone's life, but that doesn't mean it's not there. Sometimes, the biggest changes happen quietly, in the background, where we can't always observe them. But trust that every act of kindness, every moment of service, creates ripples that can touch more lives than you know. Lewis wrote in The Four Loves, "The smallest good act today is the capture of a strategic point from which, a few months later, you may be able to go on to victories you never dreamed of." Isn't that powerful? The smallest good act, the tiniest bit of light, can lead to unimaginable victories down the road. We may never know the full impact of the light we share, but God does, and He is faithful to use it for His purposes. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with a simple challenge. Think about someone in your life who might be struggling in darkness. How can you be the one who brings light into their world? It doesn't take much. A kind word, a listening ear, or just your presence can make all the difference. Jesus calls us to be the light in Matthew 5:14-16. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Being a light for others doesn't require grand gestures. It's about being present and allowing God to work through you. And as you think about this, don't forget those who have been lights in your own life. Take a moment to reflect on the people who have stood by you, who came with a lamp when you were in the dark. Maybe reach out to them, say thank you, or offer your own light in return. Gratitude and love go hand in hand. We're called to be a reflection of God's love, and that starts by sharing the light we've received with others. God often works through the people around us, and He can work through you too. So, as you move forward, be intentional in how you can spread light, even in small ways. You never know how much it might mean to someone else. Thank you for listening today. I hope this conversation has encouraged you to be a source of light, love, and hope. Let's continue to shine brightly in a world that needs it more than ever. We will see you in the next video.